All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of the Mets XM Fan Zone live podcast, home of your everyday New York Mets. I am Anthony. I am your 16-year veteran for Major League Baseball.com and also for Mets.com. I've been doing that. If you guys don't know who I am and you guys are wondering, why am I popping up? Why is this guy popping up on your feed? Well, there you go. So we got some ground. We got a lot of Mets news that we're going to be talking about today down here in Port St. Lucie. If you're not down in the Port St. Lucie area, we got spring training to come around. We got basically one alert for everybody, which I think this is going to be very interesting because it has been brought up in a lot of my conversations because a lot of you guys have been tweeting about it, guys are writing it in on the comments. So we are going to be talking about this headline story here in this show. But before we get into some of that news, make sure that you guys share, like, and subscribe because in order for us to do these each and every week, of course, you guys have to share, like, and subscribe to the channel because in order for me to break these newses to you guys, that really would be helpful. So I really do appreciate the love and support of our channel. So you guys have been asking, what's the deal with the Mets? What's going on? Any news, being circulating around the team? The Met, who's down in spring training right now? Basically, we're right around spring training. Spring training is pretty much here. We got 2 weeks into it. It's going to be very interesting on the guys being reported. Almost everybody's down here right now. A lot of the hitters are down here. We got Marcus Semien down here right now. We got Polanco down here. We pretty much got almost everybody that's really down here right now. We know that the Mets all working with Brett Beatty, and he has a left field glove. He's out there. I mean, that's kind of like a little bit less of news because you kind of like the Mets all just kind of doing some straightening and conditioning right now. They haven't really gone full throttle into any baseball activity. I mean, the only one that's really kind of doing some baseball activity right now is Brett Beatty. So he's kind of like learning a little bit on the outfield. We're gonna have that coverage for you guys in probably 3 to 4 days. We'll post it up on our social so you guys can see on what he's been doing down here. I kind of been like really a little bit observing right now because if you guys ever go down to spring training, you'll always see the facility and you'll always see, like what they're working on and if they're if they're out in the field. I mean, there's a lot of, baseball activity that happens when, during springtime. But I mean, you're probably not going to see the main stars out on the fields. You're more than likely going to see a lot of our guys in BP, or you'll see them, working out in the back of the facility and also a little bit inside. So, I mean, we're not really allowed to cover that, inside the facility, but we could always cover the back end of the facility and all that. And we'll have all of that getting ready to kick off and in gear in upcoming weeks. So, I mean, the pitchers and catchers report on the 10th and the 11th. The 21st is full games. We'll have all the coverage for you guys on our website by going to MetsXMFanZone.com. It's everybody could get spring training absolutely risk free when you guys sign up to our membership. It is spring training. You get the full season and you get MLB, the ESP, all of our live stream coverage that we cover, and also through Pix 11 and SNY. But we do got some really good news alert because today we got an official wording that Keith Hernandez is now going to a full throttle season. He re-signed with SNY, and I was like, "This is amazing. Love Keith." So Keith Hernandez is now getting a re up on his contract, so we'll be able to see him throughout the regular season with SNY. Um, what do I think? Well, I mean, I really do like Keith, and I think Keith is so valued. You know, he's a raw Mets fan. I love it. The one key notion that I see is that I don't know if Ron Darlin's going to do it as much. I know Ron Darlin's always at MLB. He's always when I'm in New York, he's always there. Always get to chat with him. But from what I know, I don't think he's up on a contract deal yet. We do know that Gary Cohen is, I think his contract is up next year if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know what he's looking to do, but I think it's time for some younger blood. I feel, in my opinion, in that booth, and I love Steve Galps. Well, I mean, he is so great on the field. I love everything about him. I love his work. I love what he's now doing on the social media side of things. I mean, great mentor. I mean, a guy that just knows on how to work with the SNY network. I love everything about it because I mean, I get so many people that love what we do, but are like, how come you guys don't get together? So, I mean, we're working on it. We're trying to see if we could, maybe make something happen with that and get him onto our show. I think that would be pretty cool. But once he gets a little time, once he gets a little, less time, we could probably get him on. So let's go into some of the news being around the Mets now. Of course, again, like I said, spring training is here. What do we got? What kind of news do we really got going on? But right now, I will tell you that the Mets are being very, very quiet in regards to signing players. You are going to see players being signed. You're going to see minor league moves here and there, more than likely. There right now, the Mets do have in their PR paperwork, which I got right here in my hand, that the Mets got 4 official new signs being popping in the next few days. The Mets ended up signing Carlos Santana, which I thought was very interesting. I'm sorry, they didn't sign. Didn't sign. They're near to a contract move for Carlos Santana. It hasn't been official yet, but we are hearing that could be a next sign. Ty Francis is also a guy that's been circulating around the New York Mets. I was talking to a Mets PR people earlier today on this. It is to get some clarity on this topic. Right now, it's still a 50-50 scenario, so we still don't have official wording yet to be, populated to us media people. If that's going to be official for the Mets. The Mets are in rumors to maybe bring him in. I think it would be a really nice finesse player because Francis, he actually could play first base. Not only that, I mean, he doesn't have a great bat, but I mean, he could play first base and be a really good defensive first baseman. So, I mean, we're going to more than likely see maybe something like that being put in the next few days. So maybe that could more than likely be a move. I'm not saying that it will happen. I mean, it is being mentioned. They do have interest in him. It's just right now, it's kind of like a little bit on the low part of things right now. It's not like a big, like the Mets are really highly interested. They're just interest. There's talking on some negotiations there. So nothing to really report out there to say that this is going to be an official move for the New York Mets. You're destroyed. UFC. I love my man Legend. Always throwing that out there. Uh, what do I think on Freddie Peralta? I like the move. The one thing that I really like with Peralta is that you see a lot of depth with him. He could go deeper into games. So I thought that move was very interesting because when the Mets lost Diaz, this is how I look at it in this standpoint. When they lost Diaz, you needed somebody that you could bring in that gives you a lot of flexibility, that could go deeper into games. And right now, the Mets they didn't have that at the time. Going once you lost Diaz, and once you lost Alonso, and then you lose a Nimmo, and it was like, and then the Mets were kind of like very like low in not picking up players. It was like, who do you turn to at that point after losing Diaz? And then you don't get the right player, which I think, in my opinion, I think the Mets picked up the right player for third base. You kind of look at it into a standpoint where you had to pick up a superstar. Who was that superstar going to be? Yeah, they got a superstar in Pichette, but now you needed that superstar as a pitcher. And I think Freddie Peralta was definitely the best candidacy that the Mets ended up bringing in. So I love everything about this guy. We are going to do a full video on him tomorrow. So if you guys chop onto the stream tomorrow, it's going to be very, very interesting to show. Because I want to be able to give it out to our audience. So it's going to be very interesting because if you kind of look at his pitch sequencing and kind of looking at the way he is on the mounds and the way he could go much deeper into games, I really do feel that this right here kind of brings a lot of identity. It brings full identity to this team. So I do feel that what the Mets ended up picking up was a very good, valuable candidate. So I want to see what they could do going deeper into the season. If the Mets are definitely going to make a big move, of course, they got some moves that they could do at the trade deadline. But I mean, having Freddie Peralta as your starter, I think it was a very good move. Grading him at an A+, kind of looking at the velocity, kind of looking in the way his pitch sequencing is. I mean, we'll discuss that tomorrow a little bit more in depth. But I mean, watching play for pitching, and kind of he's less of a strikeout. I mean, he's less of a walk ratio type of pitcher, which I think, in my opinion, is awesome, because you need pitchers to have less walk ratio. And then, of course, his strikeout ratio is very high, kind of going 6 for 8. And I really do like that out of him when he goes deeper into the game, which you see him more than likely going in the sixth. Going into the sixth inning, that ratio kind of goes down to be a lot smaller than expected. So, I mean, bringing in a guy like Peralta, in my opinion, was a smart move for Mets, even though you kind of look at him as, you needed that superstar pitcher on this team. And now that we have some really good pitching coaching around these guys now, I think it's going to be top tier, and the Mets are going to have the best pitching staff in baseball and pitching rotation. So I really do feel that this investment coming out of Peralta is a smart move. And yet, don't sleep on Luke Weaver and sleep on Devin Williams. And I know a lot of people have that animosity towards those guys, but hey, you got to stay positive because I know that this pitching bullpen rotation is elite. I'm great at number 3 in baseball, and yet we still haven't had pitching. We haven't gone into spring training yet, so I'm gonna rank it as number 3. And even in starting rotation, I'm ranking it number 4. I mean, do I think that there needs some adversity and bringing in a lot of good pitchers there, kind of changing it up? I mean, guys, I'm looking under the radar is Christian Scott. I think Christian Scott is a very, very good pitcher. I just think he didn't get a shot because he ended up getting Tommy John surgery. And then, guys like Tyler McGill. These guys are going to be put on, on the DL in the start of the season. And then I kind of want to see a little bit of some comeback in Kodai Senga. So, I mean, it's this team, I think by far looks very good on paper wise, but also looks very good if you're really kind of looking at it as depth. And I do think that the Mets have a lot of good depth. Are the Mets in heavy talks with Pittsburgh? As of right now, they are. They're kind of looking at some trade possibilities. We still yet don't have an official wording on it. I know that it was brought up earlier today in conversations that the Mets are maybe looking to do a trade. I don't. It's not going to be the players that you guys kind of think at right now. I think right now with the Mets, they're kind of bringing in. They want to bring in some guys, but it's not going to be on a. I don't think it's going to be a superstar. I think it's probably going to be a guy that they could just hold over. Yeah, on David Robertson, yes, he is retiring. Yes. Hey, hello. What's up, Joey? Nice to see you. What? Yeah, we could do some shout outs. Yeah, we could do some shout outs. Why not? We got Sean from Instagram. Nice to have you, buddy. Do we got Mountain Man on? I want to say we do. We got Mountain Man. Platforms all over the place. Daisy. That's my Daisy Dukes. Lenore. Hello, darling. You are you live on YouTube? We are live on YouTube actually. So apparently on YouTube we were having issues with YouTube for a while, and now we're officially back on YouTube. So you guys will see some highlights from us all the time now. And we had some issues with Facebook with some of the audio rights, which that's all cleared up too. So if you're watching us on Facebook too, great to have everybody on there. Who? Yeah, we're here. We're down here already. Who are we gonna cover? So we got scheduled for Lindor. We got scheduled for Soto and Mendoza, and Pachette. So those are gonna be scheduled. Those are not gonna. So everybody know it's not gonna be live. We were supposed to go live on, I think, with Mendoza. Mendoza is only going to be the only one that we're going live with. We're gonna have a lot of questions. A lot of you guys have questions to ask them, so we have a whole list of them. I actually have it on my other sheet here. Where is it? I got them on this sheet. So, but if you guys got questions, we'll definitely put them onto the sheet and we'll have them out. So from what I know, we're only allowed to give only 40 questions out. So it's about 40 of them, and we're only supposed to have up to 25 minutes with the manager. Uh, with Vientos, I could talk to him anytime I need, which is awesome. Um, Lindor is gonna get a sit down with us too. We're gonna have a sit down with Bichette, but that's supposed to be a 10-minute thing. So we're still working on trying to get a little bit more time with some of these guys. Can only get what I can. So I'm trying to get most of the players that we could, because these guys, the players, they have to be spread out among all of the media. So among all of us, Will I be at game one? Yeah, I'll be at game one. Yes. We are gonna have a booth upstairs on the second floor. So yeah, we're gonna be live before that game. Did what other sports do we like? Yeah, you guys could always pop by the booth. We'll be upstairs on the second floor at City, not City, at the Mets stadium. Because the first game is not going to be at the Mets. I believe it's going to be uh with Miami, and we'll be at Cloverfield on the second floor. We'll have like a little. You'll see my little booth there with our green screen, and we'll be all set up on the second floor. Because we're gonna be live there, so it'll be a live broadcast. We a lot of times we do go live at City too. Yes, we do go live at City also. Yes. On game one we'll be live on game one, and then we're gonna be live on game three. So one and three will be, I believe, we'll actually be upstairs, which won't be available for anybody. No, we'll be in the private rooms, but we'll be there. I always have my private room. We'll be in the private room, and then we'll be in the press boxes. Any news on Ty Francis? So the news on Ty Francis is still yet to be unconclusive. full, uh, there's no full official wording on him. But the Mets do have a lot of interest in on him. He could be a really good first baseman for the Mets, but I mean, kind of right now, the Mets are a little bit quiet right now in making any other moves at this moment in time. I know I was talking with them earlier today on this. I was kind of seeing if we got any news there or whatnot, but I know what right now that the Mets are going just a little bit quiet. Yes. Absolutely. We you could put it in the comments. I know somebody was saying about that. It's dot com, everybody. It's not dot org. We're gonna have our team fix that. We do apologize. If you're going to the website, it's not .org, it's .com. Yeah, so so it was funny was because it was the Rangers and then the Rangers and the Knicks. Somebody was actually asking me, do I do any other, sports? Uh we like to talk a little bit on it. It's I think with the Knicks, I mean I love basketball. Basketball I love watching it. Do I have a lot of knowledge on it? I do. Um on the sport, I do think that Cat is starting to learn how to play the bigger game, which I think is awesome. Because he wasn't doing that in the beginning of the season, and it kind of alarmed the Knicks that he should be playing a bigger a bigger game. He wasn't doing that. And then the Rangers, I know, has been very disappointing right now. The Rangers just released Semi Panarin, and he got traded. So I mean, doesn't look good for Rangers. I think Chris Drury really, really destroyed that team. Did I hear about the new extension on Keith? Yeah, so yeah, the extension on Keith. I like Keith. I like Keith in the booth. He's a rah 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 Mets fan. I love everything about it. Yeah, that was a great move. Do I think eventually we're not going to see them anymore? I mean, eventually that's going to happen. I think they need to gear Steve. I love Steve Gupps up there. I like Gary Apple up there. I mean, I'm not a big Jerry Blevins fan. I mean, I know Jerry Blevins very well. Do I think he's really good in the booth? I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's not for me to say. Um, but I mean, I don't think he's completely polished up in the booth yet. But I mean, kind of like has that doesn't he doesn't have that. He has the radio type of voice. He has more of that. I don't think he has that TV voice yet. If they were looking to try to do that, but I really do like Gary Apple. I think Steve Gupps would be great in the booth. I loved it because you know I know a lot of people are a little bit different than I am when it comes to the booth. I mean, yeah, I understand we like to hear different knowledge about different things, but I think it's too much. I don't listen. If you're going to talk about the teams, talk about it briefly, and then that's it. You know, uh, they'll spend like 20 minutes on it, and I don't appreciate that. I think you need to talk about bets. You know, talk about bets. Stop going and drifting off into different topics. And I think that the now with the boots, it has to be. We need to know more knowledge. Understandable, but I mean, I want to hear more Met baseball and stop talking about other teams and stop talking about other team statistics. You're a Mets broadcast. Act like a Mets broadcast. No, don't get me wrong. I think uh, Blevins is very very good. I love the acknowledgement in Blevins because he kind of talks like a pitcher, like I do. Because we were both pitchers. We both used to pitch. So I mean, I love the knowledge with Blevins. I just don't think he has that voice. A ready-made TV voice, or I mean, he has more of a radio sort of voice. But I mean, he has that S&Y, you know, dirt sheet type of guy, which is awesome. But I mean, they have to gear him to be on TV a little, being on TV a lot more and whatnot. I mean, you see him on TV, but he doesn't have that play-by-play voice yet. But I do love Jerry. I mean, great guy. He's a really, really great guy. My you know what it is that you 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 like the knowledge of a guy, but you kind of there's also much you have knowledge of, because it's like you talk about the mechanics, you talk about the pitching, you talk about the style, and then when you got a baseball, it's like you're learning on how to pitch, you're learning how to throw. So I mean, that's the one thing I love about Jerry because Jerry knows that, especially myself. So I mean, Jerry, I think, will eventually be on the broadcast. Eventually. But I mean, I'm all gun ho for Steve Geltz and Gary Apple. I would love to see them two be there. What do I think is going to happen in the start of the season? I mean, there's a lot of things going on. Look what I did. I do think right now you're gonna see Freddie Peralta being more of the headliner and Pope and Chet more of the headliner. Mets made a lot of moves in the offseason, signing them guys, bringing in Polanco, bringing in Simeon, made a lot of bullpen moves, you know, got a lot of, guys that are ready to come back into the starter rotation. You know, we'll see Clay Holmes. I mean, a lot of that, going on. And then we got a couple of players going into the World Baseball Classic, which I'm not gonna hope for. I don't like that. I think if you're a superstar or if you're getting paid big money, you shouldn't be going. Sorry, you shouldn't be going because you're an insurance risk. You're a risk to that team. You get hurt, you shouldn't be. I look at it this way. This is what I think a baseball team should do. You get hurt at the World Baseball Classics. You know what? We're not honoring your contract if you get hurt. If I was the owner, we're not honoring it. And I would make the insurance company pay for it. We're not paying for it. And that's how I think should happen. I mean, we could. I would love to go on a whole big segment about it. There's so many different things that I feel with baseball that I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a fan of the after innings putting the guy on first. I don't like it. I think that's so stupid, in my opinion, because it takes a different advantage out from both teams, not just one, but both. It takes the sequencing away. Uh, I don't like the way pitchers has to take 10 seconds. You can't ice a hitter. I think there's so many different things that the league is tarnished so much. Now they might have where they're having rivalries and you're putting them in the same sort of category. I don't think that's a good idea. There's so many different things that I am not a big fan of. But am I a fan of the automatic umpiring? Absolutely. They did it to themselves, to be fair. And the automatic replaying has been around since the early 2000s anyway. Well, yes, yes and no. I mean, the whole situation was that really started with Diaz. You know, because if you're going to the World Baseball Classic, you get hurt. Now you just completely tarnish your whole season over one player. And unfortunately, if you're the breadwinner, of the franchise, or in this case, you're the closer that closes out my games, and I got nobody to really close out my games besides you, then what? Now I got to go and rely on another pitcher to close out that game that has never done it before. So I think, what the Mets got is really good balance when it comes to closing situation now. Got Luke Weaver, Rosenbond still here. Uh, Devin Williams now, here under the fold. I think what's happening now is that the Mets kind of had that great flexibility in the back end of their bullpen. And they got a lot of guys back there. So, I mean, I definitely think that, the start of the season is going to be very interesting, especially with the bullpen. I'm loving the starter rotation, which, of course, with McLean, of course, you got David Peterson that could hopefully bounce back. Same thing with Mania bouncing back. I think Senga could very well bounce back too. And then of course you got your star in that rotation right now is Freddie Peralta. So Peralta was the guy that the Mets weren't gonna get in Screwball. So I mean you weren't going to get him, so they had to go and get a guy. And I think Peralta was the best choice, in my opinion. And we'll get to see that in spring and in the regular season. Do do I think that getting another first baseman could definitely be a deal maker? Absolutely. I think in my opinion, if you're going out and getting Ty Francis, he would be a really good defensive sort of guy. However, he could hit too. So I mean, doesn't hit great, but I mean, looking at his stats, what was his stats here at I have it right in front of me. So he bats it. He bats at 312, 54 RBIs with 18 home runs. I mean, that's what he did last year. Not that impressive, but I mean, if you're really looking at numbers, then not impressive. But I mean, if you're looking at a guy that could be more defensively, playing a good first base, I'm all for it. I'm gun ho for it. I mean, which lacked in Alonso. People don't seem to understand that Alonso wasn't going to do you much. Wasn't going to do you much. Everybody bitched and complained that he couldn't be a good first baseman. Now that you're going out and getting a decent first baseman in Polanco, which is more than likely going to play back and forth there, and then with Mark Vientos, maybe see Brett Beatty there at times. I mean, that could be a difference maker, but could it be a difference maker in bringing Ty Francis as a permanent first baseman? I mean, yet to be decided, if David Stearns is willing to do that. So, I mean, there is full interest on Ty Francis. I mean, I think he could be a really good, reliable first baseman. But we have to, stop talking about Alonso. Stop talking about Pete Alonso. He's not here no more. And I think that people get too attached with players, in my opinion, and it kind of takes away from the players that you just got. And I think, in my opinion, Polanco is gonna be a big deal breaker, especially with leadership in the clubhouse and Marcus Semien. You'll probably won't see that right away. You'll probably see it as towards midseason starts. I definitely think you got some good leadership now. Juan Soto is definitely going to be what Juan Soto is, and that's a good baseball player. Ranking as my number 3 on that list. So I do think that the Mets has what it takes to, land really good players. And they showed that so far this offseason. David Stearns, we were all mad, about not signing Alonso. We were all mad about Diaz. We all kind of went like this a little bit on Diaz. But the chemistry was toxic. Just put it that way. Nobody really wanted to play here. You saw it last year. And you saw there was no life in the club. Now, the Mets got what they got now. So now we need to make it work now. So bringing in all these players, and could they gel? Could this be a much better year for them? Absolutely. But you got which lacked last year and the year before, and I discussed this with one of my guys. One of the people that work with me. It was like the Mets lacked in contact hitting last year. They didn't have that. They lacked a lot of it. And did it come down to the hitting coach? Possibly. But it came down to a lot of the pitching coach. The pitching was the major issue last year. And they gave up so many hits. They gave up so many pitching changes, which me and Mountain Man discussed it. If you guys don't know who he is, me and him, we talk a lot on the TikTok scene. It just bringing up 38 pitchers in a season is a little ridiculous. And that was honestly the most out of any team in baseball. That's embarrassing. That's gotta be embarrassing. So, I mean, I think in my opinion, contact hitting is what this team lacked in last year. We got it now. We got it in Marcus Semien. We got it in Polanco. You sure as hell more than likely would get it out of Roberts. I think Roberts, in my opinion, is kind of might, have a bigger comeback story, hopefully. Gelling from the White Sox, coming to the New York Mets. Hopefully maybe having a big change of atmosphere that maybe he could just rejuvenate his career. Didn't have it last year. Batted .586, and also, well, not batted. His OPS was .586. He had 11. He had like 11 home runs, close to 11, 18 home runs, and he batted at .286. So I mean, I would like to see him have a big comeback year. So, and then the Mets are looking at their younger talent too. You get to see some of the young parts of this franchise with Carson Bench. I think he's going to be phenomenal in my opinion. He's a really good outfielder. I like what I see out of him so far. He is going to probably be that deal breaker in my opinion. You get to see him shine a little bit. And then first base. So I do think that the pitcher will be just fine. And I like what I have. The only one player that kind of really gives me a little bit of some is Kodai Senga, because the hamstring is a problematic issue. As a pitcher, your lower body is your main focus. Elbow as well. That's why guys blow out their arms so much, because they're putting too much speed to that rotation on your elbow. By you putting too much speed on this elbow, you're throwing the ball. Give you guys a little bit of visual I'm talking about. You're putting too much of that elbow, because when you're turning the pitch, your elbow puts a lot of strain and stress to it. So I definitely think that with Senga, that's more of an issue too. But also, getting that ghost pitch and landing and having good execution with it, I think is the main focus. That hamstring's always going to be a problem for him, unfortunately. And that's pretty much my outtake on that. Do I think the Mets are going to get Framber Valdez? No, they're not getting him. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I think the only way the Mets get Framber Valdez is if they're really in good contention. Yeah, if they go and get him next year, that's a possibility. I mean, there are two things that I could definitely see in the works by the trade deadline. One, getting Scrubble could be a potential move, and two, maybe Valdez. I mean, he's not on the table right now. I'll tell you that right now. I know I was talking with Mets PR people early this morning. I asked if there's anything major news on Valdez. Nothing. Zip. So do I think that the Mets could easily surprise us? I could be. Um, I'm not. I'm not looking at any sort of tensions of the Mets going out and getting a big arm. Um, do I feel that the Mets could bring him in? Maybe. It's a maybe. I mean, I don't know where the Mets direction goes. I mean, they got a lot of bullpen pieces in the offseason. I mean, they could add another piece if they really wanted to, but there's no spot for him really. If you really think about it, no, there's no spot. You still got Reed Garrett. More than likely, going into spring training, he probably will still be on the DL. But I mean, we got Christian Scott back. More than likely, might go to the bullpen. I mean, there are a few players still going to go on the injured list coming into spring. But I mean, there's no really any spot for him. That's the same thing with Mauricio. No spot for Mauricio really either. And that's the thing too. I do think that the Mets are way better on paper, but also better over depth wise. If you really look at the field wise, they are 100% better. Because you got good defense now, and you finally got contact hitters. So good contact hitting all around, good depth all around. But now you finally got a full boat team. You got a well managed team. We were all a little bit over the top before these moves that were made. That's the thing too, and I totally agree with. I agree with Mountain Man on this one. Said the same thing like I did. We have more athlete sort of players now than we did last year or the year before, because if you really think about it, looking down to Brandon Nimmo, lollipop arm, not good in the wasn't good in the outfield last year. Nor was he good prior to that year. He was declining, and you saw it. You saw it with the fasciitis. You saw it with the back issue. You saw it where he looked a little bit more exhausted out there. He wasn't running, coming off first base. Now you got guys that could do that. Uh, and then with Polanco, you want to talk about contact hitting. Polanco, Simeon. Smart baseball moves there. And then, of course, bringing in Roberts, good outfielder. I mean, he's got an arm too. Hands down, very, very good athletes. We just got to see these guys gel together. No, listen. I don't think it has to do a lot about you know audibles. In my opinion, I think that the problem last year and prior years was a lot of audible issues. I think with this year, I love what we got. I mean, I am so confident. I'm confident in Polanco because I've seen Polanco, play before. I don't know if a lot of people have seen Polanco. A very good contact hitter. He could run too. Same thing with Simeon. But Simeon kind of brings a little bit more leadership under the fold. Because we saw that when he was with other teams before. A very high strong player, which the Mets lacked that. They didn't have that. And then don't get me started about catching. I think catching is going to be phenomenal this year with Alvarez, Terrarins. I mean, you can't ask anything more out of Terrarins. I mean, works great with young pitching. Alvarez works great with veterans. You know, I love the compact up between the catching situation. It's not talked enough. I love when Alvarez went down, you saw a lot. You saw him get a little bit more of his confidence back. That's what this team lacked in confidence. You don't have confidence, you don't got a team. And they locked in that last year, and we had to get rid of players. We couldn't keep them anymore. Unfortunately, it had to happen. David Stearns had to do it. And I know that everybody's upset about the moves, but if you're not winning with them, we had 5 years with these guys and we couldn't win with them. They had to go. Alonso had to go. No, I don't think you don't win with guys better on paper. No, I totally agree to that assessment. I agree with one or two ways, though. Perform well and put up good numbers. One thing that we all saw Juan Soto last year didn't have great two first months in the beginning of the months, April and May, but he blossomed in June and July. So, going back to the numbers that he originally always, ends up with at the end of the season. Guys like that I'd be happy with. And he puts that down on paper too. So, I mean, if I could bring in players that could very well have good assessment and, being good on the field, but also bringing up the numbers that you expect them to put up with, then I call this a win-win scenario in my opinion. I think that the Mets are gonna win over I say about over 80 wins this year. They're gonna be ranked number 2, like they will be. Will they win the division? It's still yet to be decided. I kind of want to see what they all gel first in spring. You kind of have to give it some time. It's not good. Don't expect it to happen right away. But I do feel that this team could be better. And bringing in the guys that we got at Pachette, I think is definitely a win-win for me. And then Polanco, Simeon, Weaver. I mean, these guys, Freddie Peralta. This is going to look very, very good for the Mets at the start of spring. More than likely, not going to see Peralta right away, but almost everybody's down here already. Do I see the Mets winning over 90 wins? Absolutely. I think the Mets would win 95 wins. I think the Mets are going to have 95. I'm going well over 80. Definitely for sure. That's if everybody stays healthy. That's if pitching is healthy. That's if the bullpen's healthy. Moderate, Am I expecting to see everybody, be healthy? Probably not. But if there's going to be some health issues, I'd rather have it in the beginning of the season than I would towards the end of the season or towards, mid by the All-Star break. Make sure everybody stays healthy. That's the one thing that I look at when it comes down to, having this team be a little bit more conditioned. I think not having I mean, pitching, I think was fine for David Stearns. Looking at terms, if you really want to come down to the terms and contracts of what he has done with with Peralta and Luke Weaver and Devin Williams, all the signs that he's got. This is perfect. I would never, ever give a pitcher over 3 years. He gave Polanco, Simeon, those guys through 3 years max, majority of them. To me, that was perfect. Don't overspend. And that's what the Mets did this year in this offseason so far. They didn't overspend. They didn't get emotional. The problem is that with Met fans, we get too emotional and too attached to players. And you kind of have to look at it as, let's not talk with our emotions, because once our emotions talk, you know what happens? A team flounders and a team doesn't become successful. We need to look at it as a statistic standpoint. You got to look at it as, if a guy's not performing, sit your ass down. If a guy's not performing, then we need to get rid of you. And, if you're not going to put up your numbers within those years and within the terms that we assign you to, well, guess what? You have to go. And if we're not winning with that formula, got to go. Just what it is. And I like it that David Stearns is kind of like that guy. Cut and dry. We couldn't perform with you. You got to go. Do I think that they're going to bring Ty Francis? No, I don't. I really don't. I want to give Vientos another shot there. I want to see Vientos play first base. He's probably maybe DH. I do know that David Stearns did talk about maybe DHing him. It could be well on the table for him. He really would like to get a first base glove and kind of work with him there at first base. But right now we got Brett Beatty kind of having a left fielder's glove and working out there, right now, and he's been doing that so far down here in spring. I think what I think, in my opinion, is that Vientos, I want to give him another shot. I can't get rational with Vientos. If Vientos could perform well, then he's got another shot, got another life. We saw some life out of him towards the end of the season. The only problem I have with Vientos is the way he's positioned at the plate. When Vientos is on at the plate, which we're gonna be working on getting some new equipment. So just so everybody knows, we're getting a motion detector camera, and I'm gonna show you guys a lot of my footwork when it comes to at the plate and kind of give you guys a little bit of a point of view. That's going to be a lot this year. So you guys going to see me not sitting here and talking too much, but showing you guys a little bit on what players should be doing. I think in my opinion, Mark Vientos needs to learn on how to readjust at the plate. Not too much of a swing, readjusting. And when he's off, I feel like he moves too far up on the plate, hyperextends that elbow, and kind of has more of a strikeout, rate. And what we saw at the end of the season, Vientos moving back in the plate and a little bit in, and he had a little bit more pop to his bat. So I think that what we saw out of Vientos towards the end of the season was a Vientos that we needed him to be, which was prior to last year. So I'm looking and giving him one more shot. He fails, he goes. I mean, you can't keep him. And I like the harshness a little bit out of David Stearns. Everybody, is like, run production, and he's right. In a way, he's right. I don't think he's going to go for Chandler, but I mean, I think you got to give one more shot to him. that's just in my honest. He's a great. I like Vientos a lot. Listen, I know I'm being biased because of I talked to him enough, but I mean, I really do feel that Vientos could very well break out. Sometimes a guy takes a couple of years to really become a breakout star. You see that out of OCA, and kind of see that out of a lot of guys. I think Vientos, if we give him just one more shot, I really do feel that it will pay off in the long run. And he's a good bopper, has a lot of Chipper Jones in him, and I feel, in my opinion, he has that pep in the step, and he has good pop. He's strong on the right side of the plate. You see it. You see the home runs that he makes. Do I think he's a kind of a clutchy type of hitter? No, but I mean, I need to see him a little bit more pop. I think once he gets a little bit more pop into his bat, I really do think he could be very successful. No, I don't think he's a PCA. I don't think he's like him, Pete Crow Armstrong. I just think that, he needs to get to that point. I think, he's not a very good fielder. And I think that now you're going to see that out of Troy Snisker. You can kind of work with it, I think a little bit there at first base. You'll see it a little bit out of third. He's a very good, hitting assistant, which I thought that was a big, big move for the Mets to go and get him. But I mean, it kind of breaks out. You kind of see a little bit of that, vigility, I feel, from Vientos. Um, he didn't have that last year, but I want to see that coming out of him this year. Work with first base. I think he would be really good for first. But I mean, if they need to keep him as a DH guy, okay. Yeah, and that's why I like Carrera. I think Carrera is going to work with him. Same thing, same thing with Niskura. I think those are really two guys that he could learn from. I think with Kai, I think he shows what he could. I think, in my opinion, I think Snisker could really work with him a little bit more. I mean, but I definitely love the Kai Carrera move. I thought it was smart for the Mets to do that. Yeah, I don't know about the Scott Boris thing. I mean, yet, I mean, I'm a little interested in seeing on how Scott Boris would represent Vientos. I think once Vientos goes and hires him, he's done here. That's in my opinion. Because nobody likes to work with Boris because he asks too much from his clients. Like like Pete Alonso is not worth the money that he is, in my opinion. I think the Mets could have gave him a little bit more in retrospect. They could have, but I think, in my opinion, Pete didn't want to be here no more. Oh yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that assessment. I think that with Pete, you know, you got to go and get somebody that can really good represent you. And I agree with that. But and you get the most money. You don't blame him. I wouldn't blame him. Get the most money for your client. But I mean, the Mets treated him well, and I didn't like what he did. Leaving the Mets. Same thing with Nimmo. Like, really? it was like, really? It is what it is. Oh no, I totally agree. I'm glad that Pete got the money he got. But I just think he didn't want to be in New York anymore. I think it was his wife in his ear a little bit, to be honest. Oh, you go make more money somewhere else. I really do think that in a way. His wife was very highly influenced in the clubhouse, from what I heard of. I heard the same thing with Lindor's wife, but who are you gonna do? It is what it is. Um, yeah. So we're gonna take two more questions from all of our platforms. I want to thank everybody for watching here in our live stream. Um, Tonight it was great having everybody on. If you guys enjoy the coverage, we're gonna be doing this throughout the whole spring training. We're gonna be doing it out the whole 26 season. If you guys would like to see all of your Met games with spring training and all, guys got to go and check out our link below up to on top. It's not .org, it's .com. We do apologize for that. It should be anywhere up here if you guys are seeing it. It's MetsXMFanZone.com. We give you free spring training if you can't get it in the area that you're in. I know a lot of people have been, DM anywhere. All the streams you can get anywhere. I mean, want to thank the Mets MLB for allowing us to do it. I mean, it's been awesome. I mean, we we had a very successful last year with 2.9 million followers. That was completely cool. We enjoyed it. We enjoyed chatting among of our community. And you guys can even check out the community on the website. We have a whole community blog where you guys can chat among other Met fans. You can post up your stories. You can post up some videos on there. It's a great community. It's a like a kind of like a Facebook, but for Met fans. So I mean, you guys can check it out. We do a lot of stats. I love doing all the the betting odds and stuff like that. You guys will get my point of view on some betting throughout the regular season. If you do bet, um, we are followers of DraftKings, Fanatics, BetMGM. Those are the platforms that we are partnered with. So you guys can go and check that out. But I do suggest it is for educational purposes only, though. I mean, I give people some knowledge on, on how to, bet responsibly and stuff like that. And we'll do that through the regular season. So, um, So I just wanted to just let everybody know on that. So we do have a kind of like a betting statistics on there and betting analysis and giving you guys a little bit on some player points that I, do each and every day. And we have all of our latest blogs up there, all the Mets latest news and whatnot. It gives you great information each and every day. And everything that we post that you guys see that we post daily on is from there too. So you're never missing any Mets news. No, Diaz wanted to leave. The Mets gave. I will tell you, I was I was in the room with a lot of the writers, a lot of the reporters. Uh, Diaz wanted to leave. It was actually brought when we were at the winter meetings. He turned around to his agent and said to his agent that we're leaving. The Met, but they were like, oh well, the Mets gave you the highest offer. Yeah, no, we're not staying. We're not going with the Mets. We're going with the Dodgers, and it took less money with Dodgers. He didn't want to be here anymore. That's that kind of shocked a lot of us because we were like, wait a minute, you know, we're giving you the most money. You're not going to take it, and they had three offers being put on the table with Diaz. There was three offers being put on the table with Alonso too, uh, and they didn't want to take it. Listen, I'm all in favor with Williams. I think he'll definitely be really good. He is a guy that is good for late innings, And was he good with the Yankees? Wasn't really good with the Yankees, but he could have a bounce back season with the Mets. So I'm not in any shape or form upset with the move that the Mets made. And I agree. Totally agree. I think Williams and Weaver are going to be really good. You watch out, you guys. And the one guy that I'm really looking forward to having a good spring, Razabon. Don't sleep on Razabon. I really do think that Razabon could be. I think he could be really good coming out in the eighth inning. Times when you need him. And I think the problem too was that they were relying on Razabon to beat the closer at times, and just couldn't handle it. Now we got guys that can handle that now. I think the Mets made perfect news. Watch. You guys will come to me and say, you're right, Aunt. I had a few of them already. Oh, well, I mean, it is his contract year. He probably will be doing great, but you know what? Hey, if he could get me to the playoffs, if he could get playoffs, we could get to the World Series, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But, I do think that to be conclusive on these topics, I think the Mets overall are they had good pickups. I think the season getting ready to start is going to be very exciting. I listen. Sports. I look at it this way: sports is a flip flop sport. Everybody, is like sports is an emotion. It's like we have emotions when it comes to sports. We people get energized with sports because everybody gets so dedicated about it. That's why we do what we do for a living. And so, I mean, baseball is a different atmosphere than others because baseball, there's so much knowledge that you could go by. And some of us could be right. Some of us could be wrong. That's what's great about sport. And that's what's great about any sort of sport, because we could agree to disagree, So I think with, this season, injunction, I really do feel that the starter rotation, I mean, going in to spring, I'm ranking it number 3. Bullpen, I'm ranking it number 3. I think a lot of the acquisitions that the Mets made so far in the spring has been very positive. Were we down on them? Absolutely. Again, like I said, roller coaster. It's a roller coaster of emotion. So, which sometimes you kind of scratch your head on certain things, which we all do. But overall, get me to the playoffs. And that's all that counts. So, we're going to end our show. I want to thank everybody for all the comments. You guys have been great. Keep them coming. We will be posting throughout the rest of the week. We are going to be live again on Thursday. We're going to be live on our scheduled live stream at 5:30. We got Mountain Man, which again is my co-host. Love him. He's one of my favorite guys. It's my brother, my homie. He will be live with us at 5:30 on Thursday. Me and him are going to be talking about some of your latest topics of Mets, and keeping the talks alive. Spring training. Me and him are going to talk a lot about the spring training. I am down here in Port St. Lucie to give you guys some of that coverage, which of course pitchers and catchers are reporting. A lot of guys are here already, so I mean, majority of the team is here, but we're going to keep spring training open. We're going to give you guys a lot of reporting on that. We're going to give you some reports on rumors and trade talks, and a lot of that going to be swirling in the spring. Maybe new signs are going to be coming in for the Mets. We got a lot of ground to cover for that throughout the whole spring training, which now is starting to kick into gear. I would like to thank you guys again for watching. If you enjoyed it, share, like, subscribe. Tap on that screen on all of your social media platforms, because for us, keeping this going, keeping all of our Mets fans going is what makes us great. So, do you support LFGM still, or are you going with LGM? Put that in the comments. Well, I enjoy you guys. Thank you very much. My name's Anthony, and if you don't know me, I am a 16-year veteran for MajorLeagueBaseball.com. I was a ghostwriter for many years. Same thing with Mets.com.